Alright everyone, the election is tomorrow, so it's time to give my final US election prediction. Now, part of this is prefaced on the fact that Trump is currently on the rise. He had bottomed out again in polling. I mean, with his approval, he's now rising above 45. He's probably at 46, but there's always a lag in the aggregate. That's the magic number I've said that he needs to be at to have a chance, because, I mean, 47 is the usually agreed upon 50-50 break-even point. I think it's lower than that. Obama could have been a half a point lower than he was in 2012, I think, and still gotten elected, based partially on low enthusiasm for his opponent, and that's what I see in this election. That's why I am saying I still officially predict with a roughly 75 to 80% confidence that Trump will win the election. Now, that means there is, admittedly, a chance that Biden wins. It's less sure than it was in 2016, but I'm not going to hedge my bets. My official expectation is that Trump is elected, that he wins. I base this on a number of factors. Number one, the enthusiasm gap. We're already seeing 2-to-1 practically Biden voters are the ones requesting mail-in ballots, and yet half of them haven't been returned. I think that enthusiasm is going to play an outsized role in the election. By the way, if you're a Trump or a Biden fan, at the very least you should be voting. Of course, I think you should vote for Trump. I think that once you're in the privacy of your balloting area, you should mark for Trump and Pence as opposed to Biden and Camel over there. But that being said, you should do your civic duty regardless. If you lean against Trump, vote for Joe Jorgensen and waste your vote instead. Don't vote for Biden because he sucks. I base it as well on at least the perception of relative approval in early voting in a number of states, especially Florida. Florida was not supposed to be leaning towards Trump in this election. Initially, don't worry, Biden's got it basically in the bag. And what I said months ago, in the wake specifically of Sanders' comments about Castro, and this will be one of the reasons if Trump wins, Sanders will get disproportionate blame from the neoliberals. He'll blame the neoliberals. Well, the party's become the party of coastal elites. No wonder people didn't turn out. You should have nominated me instead because I have more youth appeal. Bernie Sanders is going to be all over the place. It'd be great. But the neoliberals will blame him because remember when he praised Fidel Castro? It's not a good idea to if you need Florida to win the election to do that. Biden also stepped on his own dick for Pennsylvania and Ohio voters with his fracking comments in the final debate. I think that hurts him. I'm expecting Pennsylvania is more likely to tilt towards Biden, at least statistically speaking, but if there's a swing in the voting, enthusiasm-based largely. As much as there was in 2016, Trump will win it. It'll be by a very narrow margin, but you would expect Trump to edge Biden out in the state. Now, if that happens, if Trump manages to retain those two states, he's won the election. On election night, when I'm doing my analysis, it might be a fairly short broadcast of only a couple of hours, 2.5 hours something, because once we start getting results from Florida and Pennsylvania and Ohio to an extent, we're going to know the trajectory of the race. If it looks like Biden's actually going to grab up North Carolina, it's at 50-50 in Florida despite Trump running a point ahead in the polls, then Trump has a problem. But if all of the Trump fans that are enthused actually turn out to vote on election night, Trump will I believe, be reelected. I think Nate Silver's crazy. I think that even if Biden wins, it won't be anywhere near the blowout that the Dems are expecting. I think Ohio will stay red, North Carolina. I think Georgia will stay red. If you look at Biden's difficulty with Hispanic voters, I wouldn't expect that on election night we're going to see a blue Texas. I think that Trump will hold it by a smaller margin than he did before. I'm not expecting Trump to do as well as he did in 2016. So don't get me wrong there. And I expect him to lose at least one of the states that he picked up from the Democrats prior. Probably Wisconsin, possibly Michigan, and it could be Pennsylvania. And by the way, if Biden gets all three, he wins. By a narrow margin, but he does. That being said, Arizona, I think, is the most likely, arguably, of the competitive states to be Biden pickup. Which is really funny because Arizona only a few elections ago was quite red. It's been getting more blue, along with the rest of the Southwest. The Rust Belt, meanwhile, has begun to turn its back on the Democratic Party because the Democrats have abandoned the union working and middle class in favor of social justice warriors. Well, they've kept doing that during this election, despite the fact that I expect, again, I think Arizona and Wisconsin are the two most likely Biden pickups, Pennsylvania and Michigan, third and fourth. I would be hesitant to figure that Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, or Texas will be on that list. And that gets Trump tolerably close. I think that gets him to like 250-something already. That's a hard map for Biden. And you've got, by the way, you've got more and more pundits and politicians and stuff making comments explicitly hedging their bets right now. They've been gung-ho for Biden for months. Well, he's got it in the bag. He's 10,000 points ahead. Oh, but don't count your chickens. Get out and vote, everybody. Part of that is just cautionary. If you lull people into a sense of security and say, well, don't worry, Biden's got in the bag. Oh, thank goodness. I have the sniffles, so I don't have to go out and vote. He's going to win anyway. I hope that 1 million Biden voters do that, by the way. Here's the one caveat. And here's probably the biggest reason why I don't give Trump a 99% chance like I did in 2016. Rigging. Ballot fraud. Vote harvesting. I hate to say it, but in this general, as opposed to the last general, you're going to see general election tampering. You've already seen it. You've had ballots improperly discarded. You've had ballots harvested. We've got it on video from Veritas. It was funny when Ilhan Omar made the false claim that that was fake and then went after Tulsi Gabbard for calling it out in the first place. We've seen ballot boxes attacked. We've had ballot boxes destroyed with ballots in them. We've had allegations of voter suppression. There will be probably some of that. We're having it. It's almost impossible to imagine a scenario where, in such a potentially close election, with the entire lame establishment stacked up against Trump, there won't be some sort of rigging for Biden. He's not an enthusiastic sort of guy. He's low energy. Turnout for Biden will probably be lower than for Hillary Clinton. Well, then obviously Trump will win. If the elites don't do something, they have to deal with Trump for 4 more years. I think that they're genuinely concerned about that, and I think that they'll step in and do whatever they can to fuck with the election. They've been doing it online for years now. They've been purging pro-Trump pages on Facebook now for the last few weeks by the tens of thousands, wrongfully, outside of their TOS. These people on appeal will mostly be restored. After November 3rd, of course, when it's no longer a problem for Mark Zuckerberg, who really doesn't want a commander-in-chief who's going to breathe down his neck over the censorship issue. Yeah, I wonder why they would possibly prefer a Joe Biden presidency so everyone just goes back to sleep. There will be rigging. There will be fraud in the election, and ultimately, if Biden wins in a squeaker, it'll be because the election was stolen. I hate to say it. Now, he could run away with it. Then fraud, the less close that it is, the less likely it is that fraud actually caused that gap. Because it's a little bit more difficult to harvest 10 million ballots as opposed to 10 ballots. But some of these states will be almost 50-50 anyway. We could see another situation. Florida perennially is very close. We could see a situation where the winner has only a point on their adversary and there's an automatic recount, like there was the last time around, I believe, which was very quick because it was obvious that Trump won. Like I said, though, on election night, and I will be streaming tomorrow, despite the fact that here it'll be like 4 a.m. or something. It'll be some ungodly hour that I have to stay awake till. At the very least, like 2 or 3 a.m., I know. I'm going to try to have 4 guests aboard. I've already contacted people. I'll probably contact other people as alternates. I'll probably be appearing as well earlier with Ramsey Paul on his channel or Sasha's channel. I'm not 100% sure how that's going to work. I'm not even sure if he's streaming, but if he does, I'll get aboard for a while. But anyway, yes, my official prediction based on mail-in voting, based on low turnout really in terms of requested mail-in ballots, based on a huge differential between polling and actual results in early voting, based on the fact that Trump voters are 2 to 1 more likely to vote on election night as opposed to mailing in anyway, which will give Trump a huge boost. Based on lagging Democratic turnout in terms of voter registration behind the Republicans, I think that Trump will win the election. I think that the polls are wrong, and if Biden does win, it'll be because of a handful of competitive states that he wins narrowly. I don't think that it's going to be a blowout. I don't think it'll be a blowout for Trump either. That's why if you're a Trump fan, you need to turn out and actually vote. Consider this the most important election of your lifetime. If Biden wins, your taxes will go up considerably, especially if you're in the middle class and especially if you happen to be self-employed like myself. No self-employed person or person with more than 1 kid should be voting for Joe Biden just on the fiscal basis alone. Joe Biden has expressed a willingness to run us into the ground with a 3-month lockdown that would cause a Great Depression. This could cause war and would be used as an excuse, certainly, by the defense contractors to push for war. And Biden's not an anti-war kind of guy like Trump is. It's really weird to have the Democrat be the pro-war candidate. And I don't want to see millions of people potentially die and suffer. I do consider that important. So you should turn out and vote, especially if you're in one of those vulnerable states. There are about a dozen states right now, technically Nevada and Colorado, but kind of not really. Technically New Hampshire, not really. Florida, certainly. Ohio, again, technically, on paper at least, according to polling. Georgia, technically. North Carolina, the Rust Belt states, definitely. These states are all up for grabs. If you live in one, it is your civic duty to vote. That includes if you're crazy enough to think Joe Biden's a good idea, who wants to waste trillions of dollars signing on the Paris Climate Accord. By the way, is he pro-TPP? Trans-Pacific Partnership? I bet anything that he'd revive that dead monster. And Trump won't. One of his first acts in office was to say he wouldn't sign off on that, so it fell apart and became something else. But I guarantee they'll revive it under Biden. He'll probably be the chief architect of it, send another million or so U.S. jobs to Asia. That's about all. Peace out.